Greetings, my name is JC. I am the Game Master for our Barrow Maze campaign using the Castles and Crusades rule set under Fantasy Grounds. And in this video, what I'm going to be doing is going through simple combat with 3 player characters and an orc. And basically, I'm going to be working through mainly how to cast spells and how to automate a little bit, since the rule set for CNC does not automate things as much as 5th edition rule set that we've been using. And how you can kind of just cast each of your different spells and make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing that needs to happen is everybody kind of needs to declare their actions and roll for initiative. Declaration of actions is kind of going to be a little bit important in this rule set as opposed to 5th edition or modern editions where you just kind of do whatever you want willy-nilly, because we're using speed factors, and those speed factors need to be properly calculated in order to reflect that. So what I'm going to do is I have a player who's connected to the game here, and I'm going to get them to just quickly connect to and grab the 3 characters that we will be using. Where is Winthrana? She is up here. Okay. And so basically, Winthrana and Dakun, Winthrana's our illusionist. She's going to be casting a level 1 spell. Dakun is going to be casting a level 1 spell as well. And Grug is going to be making an attack with his axe. And so the character sheets just basically need to each roll their initiatives. So we know generally 9 times out of 10, you'll have to actually read the spell to confirm this, but each of the spells have a speed factor of their level. So level 1 spell generally has a 1 speed factor. So it's a penalty of 1, so I can do this in 2 ways. I have to double click here to roll for my initiative, but since I have a penalty of 1, I'm going to change this to -1 by using the scroll wheel, and then double click my little initiative button, and it'll automatically calculate my initiative. On Dakin's character, what he's going to be doing is just going to show you a different way. He's also going to be casting Magic Missile when Thala is going to be casting Daze. And so he has a -1 as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and type in -1, and then I'm just going to double click. That's just another way of doing it. And then Grug, our resident fighter who uses a bearded axe, is going to click here. And I already have a -4 here. And the reason why is because Grug's basically just going to be attacking with his bearded axe. And if you open up the bearded axe, you'll notice the encumbrance value is 4. And for weapons, that's what I'm using the speed factor for. So it's a penalty of 4, essentially. And, sorry. And so I'm just basically put -4 here so I can just kind of roll, and then, okay, look, he's going on 1. So initiative is rolled by a d10 in case you didn't notice those rolling. The original editions, or actually basic use a d6, but AD&D use a d10, and second edition, so this is using a d10 as well. And the combat can now basically commence that the initiatives have been rolled. And if we go over to the Dungeon Master, he can start the actual combat. So now it's the orc. So the orc wants to make an attack. So this screen is a little bit different for me than it is for you, but basically what I can do is I can basically just roll for my attacks on my character sheet. For the monsters, I have a quick little hotkey here if you're curious, and it's like, oh, you made a critical fumble attack. You won't necessarily see this on your screen. This is kind of what you see. The orc did something, but it didn't actually attack anything. Why is that? It's because he doesn't have a target. So let's say the orc wants to target Grug, and the easiest way to do this is basically if you hold the control key and then click, you'll notice now it has targets Grug. And so if you do a deselection, he's not selected. If I want to select multiple targets, I just basically go like this, and it'll say, okay, I'm targeting Dakund and then Grug. You can only attack 1 target, though, so you got to be careful of what you're targeting and make sure that you're not targeting yourself, otherwise you'll damage yourself. Okay, and then you got to kind of manually reverse everything. So what he's going to do is he's going to attack, and it's just going to basically roll. It automatically rolled and compared it to the armor class. He made a roll of 10, and it was a miss because I believe his armor class is like 14 or something like that, and then he's going to end his turn. you hear that ding. That ding basically is the player's signifier that the turn is done. So let's go over to the player's view. So let's just open that up so that we really only need 3 things as a player. We need the map, we need the combat tracker, so that we know what's going on, and we need a character sheet or character sheets, depending on how many characters you are controlling. You'll generally only really be controlling 1 in Castles and Crusades. So, unless I kind of give you a quick NPC one or somebody is missing for the day or for an hour or something like that. Okay, so what is Winthala going to do? I said that she was going to cast a spell. So she has to cast a spell. If she doesn't do it, the spell fizzles. Old editions are harsh. And she wants to cast the Daze spell, so I forgot to prep her spells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Daze. So I can't really just select this and go like this. It doesn't do anything, okay? Basically, this causes the creature to lose its next action. And I could just put it over here, and all it does is allow people to click on it, and then they'll know what it kind of does, and they can read through the spell, and that's not overly helpful. So it's like, okay, well, how do I actually affect this creature? So knowing your spells and how they work is kind of really important for Castles and Crusades. So if I open this up and I read it, it's basically going to say, okay, any humanoid creature with 4 or fewer hit dice, it basically clouds your mind so that it takes no actions. And then 5 or more are not affected. So this is a 1 hit dice creature, so it works on them. And so what does it do? It dazes them, basically. So it applies what is known as an effect. Okay, so basically, and is there a saving throw? Material components will only matter if they cost something, and you'll have to pay for them. Dazed subject is not stunned. So the attacker gets no advantage. Okay. And it doesn't say anything. Oh, saving throw, yes. Intelligence negates. Okay. So you're going to say, okay, so I'm casting Daze. Make a saving throw. I'm going to go, okay, sure. So here I have my character sheet, and then I'm going to basically roll an intelligence saving throw. And I'm going to roll that saving throw. Let's just pretend that the saving throw fails. Okay, so I tell you it fails and you need to apply Daze. So what you can do is you can click this button right here, which is the effects button, and then there is a Dazed. If you click this and drag it here, what this will do is it'll actually, if you open up this, you'll notice that there is a Dazed, and if you're the owner, you can get rid of it, or the Dungeon Master can. Okay, so you'll notice that it's Dazed, but the one key thing about it, if you look behind the screen, this right here is the duration. You have to let me know what that is, okay? And the duration is 1 round, all right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in 1 round. So it'll automatically basically get rid of this. Otherwise, it'll stay here forever. So now basically the creature is dazed and the player's turn is done. So they click this little button here. Now it's Dakin's turn. And what Dakin's going to do is he's going to move. So he's going to move over here. The creature's dazed, so it doesn't really matter if he gets an attack of opportunity or not. And then you notice, okay, it is 10 feet. Okay, well, why isn't my token moving? How come there's no moving? If I want to reset it, I just basically click on the token and try and reset it again. I can go like this, and then I can go like that. And it'll calculate the actual distance for it. And let's say I want to move like over here or something like that, or I change my mind and I want to move over here, and then I move over here. And then so what happens is I actually have to approve it. So now the character is moved, so it's moved over. And you'll notice that there's a range of 20. The reason why is because I already targeted it. If I didn't have a target, you wouldn't see that. So that now you know, if you open up the character sheet, I can basically roll my attack for a sling, for example, since I know that's within range because of the rules. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Magic Missile, as I said. So now I have to select Magic Missile so that it goes away. But I need to know how it works. And I can't like click this. It doesn't do anything. So I have to set this up. And there's 2 ways to kind of do this. If I read the actual spell, Magic Missile, the reason why I'm going through this is because I have a lot of 5th edition players who haven't played the older editions. The spell works differently, so make sure that you read the spells, because some of the older spells are a little bit more brutal, especially like sleep, and B, they work differently. They scale differently. There isn't like enhancing spells by using higher spell slots. So it's a 1d4 plus 1 at level 3. It's 2d4 plus 2. So what I could do is I could change my modifier, I could roll my die, and then now as a Dungeon Master, what I could do is go, okay, well, Dakin has cast Magic Missile, and then he's done this much damage, and then I can just click and drag and it'll automatically apply the wounds. Well, let's say you don't want to roll the dice every single time because you cast a spell a lot, because you are basically Magic Missile freak. So what we want to do is we can, for any of the damage spells, actually create a kind of weapon by creating an item, by opening the cogwheel and then going create item. And then we can just type in Magic Missile. And one thing to consider is if you click this little magnifying glass, it allows you to actually open up the conditions and modifiers. So I know by reading the spell that we already had open, that was a 1d4 plus 1. So if I click and drag the d4 and then add 1, it'll do the math. But you might notice, depending on the character, this might be a little bit different, because the dagger uses strength. So it's a melee attack, a projectile attack, or a thrown attack. And then so you see it's plus ability, or it doesn't add the ability. So there might be some math in here that you got to kind of circumvent depending on the character, because he has like a +1 to damage for melee, for example, because of his ability scores, basically. But I know that his ability scores don't matter. And I'm just kind of pointing that out just so that you understand, because you kind of really have to understand the rules in order to do some of this automation. And I can help you through this if it's a little bit too complex for you, but it should be fairly easy to follow if you've been listening so far. So anyway, so now I have this Magic Missile. And then so I believe, yeah, I cleared out his thing. He's still dazed. All right. So I can just now make sure that I have the target in the combat tracker of the orc, and I can just go double click, and boom, it dealt 4 damage of Magic Missile to the orc, and he's now heavily damaged. And then behind the screen I can see, oh, he has been dealt 4 damage. And that's kind of 2 ways that you can deal damage with it. If it's something that you do a lot, I highly recommend creating a quick little like action here underneath your combat tab. And if it's something that you don't, then you can just simply open up the spell and then read about it. Select the number of dice that you do. Let's say it's like a cone of cold, and it's like boom. Then, oh, that's how much damage you do, and then I can just manually click and then apply the damage over to wherever it's applicable. So Dakin's turn is now done. So let's go over to Grug. And so Grug is our resident fighter. Grug's turns are a little bit easier because he doesn't have all these confusing spells to do. So what he's going to do is he's going to make sure that he has... okay. So make sure that he has the orc targeted. The reason why that happened is because I had this selected. So that's who I was actually selecting for. And since I have multiple characters, it can kind of get confusing. So keep that in mind. Just make sure that the targets are selected correctly. Open up the character sheet, and then this is really easy. So it's going to automatically do this for me because it's just a basic attack. So I can double click on here and it's going to roll an attack. Oh, it's a miss, but let's pretend it was a hit. Okay, there we go, critical hit. And then I'm going to roll the dice, and then it's going to apply the damage. And he's dying. So let's get rid of those conditions because it's not actually what happened. And I believe he had 4 damage, if I recall correctly. If that's wrong, it doesn't really matter for illustration purposes. So he rolled and he missed, and then it's the end of his attack. So it's done a new round just because of the initiatives thing. I might change this around a little bit. And now the players can go through again. Everybody's re-rolling because of the way that I've set it up. But let's say people do stuff and the orc is still around because for some reason everybody just attacked it and then everybody missed. So you'll notice that went away. See that? It automatically went away. And the reason why is because now whenever it gets over to the orc can actually do something, and it can go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to now try and attack Grug. Yeah, I hit and I did some damage. I know that said miss, but that's beside the point. And I can go through the combat until the orc inevitably probably dies, or maybe he takes one of the characters with him. If he like attacks somebody who he can actually hit, like he could probably just kill Winthana in one hit. And that's kind of a base summary of how the combat works, and an easy way in order to make sure that you have your spells and add in like a combat modifier in your weapons, for example, for some that are going to do damage, and how to apply conditions and stuff like that. Anyway, I hope this video was useful for you, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask, and keep on gaming, have fun, and we'll see you next time.